Okay, we have a lot to get through. Let's look at what's going on in the market real quick. Down day, obviously. By volume, RDFN equity N. Pull up the news. Right. Rocket to acquire Redfin. Got it. Nvidia down 3%. Tesla down 4%. Down $10. So Nvidia and Tesla down 3-4%. Palantir down 4%. Rallies up 31%. We wanted to look at this one. Didn't get the chance. Was pitched this by somebody I trust. Primary endpoint or hypertension. Resistant hypertension is a weird disease. There's been a lot of attempts to make money in this disease, and it's a kind of a rough one. Rocket is down 14% because people don't like the acquisition. Intel. So Intel's traded 1 million shares. So kind of quiet. Redfin. All right, Protagonist up 35%. What's going on with Protagonist? Must have announced phase 3 data. Protagonist has an IL-23 inhibitor. Pretty good data from Protagonist, but they don't own the drug. It's sort of J&J's drug. Mineralis, Varen, we mentioned. Perimeter Solutions, Coincheck, John Wiley, that is not supposed to be on that list actually. North Point, Granite Ridge, kind of some. Well, Floor and Decor is 11 billion market cap. I never heard of these guys. And probably Home Depot, kind of home improvement sector. Liberty Global, Standard Aero, never heard of these guys. SARO. Aerospace Engine Aftermarket Services. Okay. Synopta, plant-based and fruit-based beverage products. It was, okay, this was Apollo Medical. Got it. Let's see what else. Guild Holdings, Westrock Coffee, Seneca, Immunocore, Cogent, and Wheels Up. Those are gainers today. Not too many. Losers, well, we got a lot. Rocket, it's pretty prominent on the list. Applovin down 8%. Is Novo Nordisk really down 8%? What's going on? Novo is down 8%. Why is Novo down 8%? Okay, we have data from 𝗥𝗡𝗧𝗧. 𝗥𝗡𝗧𝗧 data might have been disappointing. 𝗥𝗡𝗧𝗧 weight loss data, 15.7%. That's a little light. That's not a whole lot better than semaglutide by itself, and not as good as some of the other drugs out there. So I could see 𝗥𝗡𝗧𝗧, certainly life cycle management for Novo, but it doesn't look so great. Not sure I'd buy Novo on the dip, but I'm not sure, 100% sure yet. Robinhood down 7% as well. So definitely some interesting stocks down and some opportunities most likely. All right, what's going on with volume? Tesla, Nvidia has traded quite a bit. Strategy, Redfin, Alibaba, Meta, Applovin, Apple, Amazon, Broadcom, 𝗕𝗏𝗄 𝗀, Alphabet, Waste Management, Verisk, Microsoft Coin Global, Novo, Taiwan Semi, Alphabet, IPG, all the usual suspects on the list. Okay, so news-wise, we got most of the major announcements. The hangover of the Bitcoin sort of crypto day on Friday was a little bit, I think, hangs over us over the next week. A lot of bearishness on the tape. Could mean a rallies in the offing. Could definitely see some kind of rally. Capra, I looked at the Capricorn data. It was really bad. I think this would, be a pretty good short. So this is Duchenne muscular dystrophy area I know pretty well, and it does not look like a reasonable drug. But we still can look at it a little more carefully. Yeah, I don't know that you have to play Novo and buy something, in response to Novo dropping, but I don't really know much about, exact inflation or whatever. ServiceNow is going to buy Moveworks, so pretty interesting news there in AI. Okay, we left off looking at MasterCard, but I also want to look at Procter & Gamble as well as T-Mobile, Coca-Cola. So just some of the large caps I haven't looked at this year, that touch a lot of people who have these stocks just randomly in their portfolio, or they work there, or what have you. I also want to look at AMD. People really like to look at AMD for some reason. The only stocks I don't really look at are financials, just because I don't even understand them. But I might hire a financials guy, so rest assured we will have that covered at some point. They'll have to teach me how financials work. I know the basics. AMD is like, so people really care about over care about AMD. So $98. Company's grown from $5 billion in revenue about a decade ago up to $23 billion in revenue recently. So about a 4 or 5x in revenue over the years. I missed the conference call and everything. What was the problem? Guidance? It's always guidance, isn't it? Yeah, look at the leverage in this business. It's kind of a beautiful thing. You show me a picture of Sydney Sweeney and a picture of this, I'd say this is more beautiful. But that's just me. I don't know if you guys think the same way. But that's how I think. You see the operating income growing a huge amount, even with revenue not growing as much. So incredible growth in leverage there. Incredible leverage in their business model, basically. Okay, 1634 shares outstanding. All right, so what's the problem with AMD? Is it product cycle problem, or let's see. You know, I'm not a semis guy. I'm not a rapper, so just keep that in mind. All right, so it was 81 when I last populated this. It's not like it's gone down or anything. Too bad. I think people look at the last sort of boost and have their opinion. Yeah, the 𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗍𝗍 thing is obviously fake. Like, there's clearly somebody putting all these, like, they did the same thing with Jay-Z, almost verbatim. It was like almost verbatim the same crazy allegations that were like just so outlandishly crazy. I think it's just extortion, right? Like, I think they're gonna arrest a bunch of the people that are doing this. 𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗍𝗍's like, I wasn't even famous. Nobody was inviting me to any Diddy party. I barely know who 𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗍 is other than the cool meme. Liabilities plus shareholders' equity. Come on, man. 𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗍𝗍 bullish on Nike. I see. All right, let's see here. Let me read this. Market's open in 2 minutes, though. Yeah, I guess we have full year now for 24. All right, so revenue grew 14% year over year. They only had a slowdown in 23 after a really torrid run of 3 years of like 40+% revenue growth. So not too bad of a dip there, and now returning to growth. Much bigger company, obviously. So pretty good. 2024 was a transformative year for AMD, delivered record revenue and strong earnings growth. So Dr. Lisa Su, data center segment annual revenue nearly doubled as the 𝗕PHIH processor adoption accelerated and delivered more than $5 billion in AMD Instinct accelerator revenue. Looking to 25, we see clear opportunities for continued growth based on the strength of the product portfolio. Okay, CFO Jean Hu. Somebody asked me about diversification earlier. Well, what can I say about this? If you can maintain your alpha while diversifying the number of positions you have, that's a miraculous thing. You should do it. But for most people, that's very, very hard to do because you lose focus, and that loss of focus usually results in diminution in the ability to sort of maintain, being able to find good securities. But if you ask me, would I rather have a portfolio of 1,000 great securities at great prices or 5? I'd rather have 1,000. Problem is, it's less and less likely as the number of securities goes up that I actually have a good handle on 1,000 securities. Even as a team, the amount of team members that can do that with a huge team is still going to be kind of problematic. So something to keep in mind. But in this ideal circumstance where I actually do have the ability to find 1,000 or 500 or 200 really, really good securities, yeah, I would rather have 200 really good securities than 5 that, something might go wrong with the 5. I'd much rather have 500. But the likelihood that I can find 500 securities that all have the same kind of upside, there's only really one 𝗧𝗏. Now, it's funny because if you look at AppLovin, I was looking at, the best stocks of the year last year. AppLovin was sitting there and you had people complaining they couldn't find good stocks and they missed AppLovin. So where were you when AppLovin was there and obviously, skyrocketing? Now, of course, AppLovin's dropping, but speaking of which, where is AppLovin right now? MicroStrategy down 9%. AppLovin down 9%. Sorry, I'm calling it by the wrong name. It's strategy now. AppLovin strategy, Akamai down 7%. Could be long. Grab down 6%, Unity down 7%, 𝗥𝗚𝗚 down 7%, Coinbase, Confluent. We got all losers, all... Sorry guys, I'm just in the midst of furiously adding to my short positions. Usually when I do this, you know, there's an immediate rally. The market makers absorb my inventory, laugh at me, and raise the prices of everything. It's typically what happens here. I've been obsessed with looking at Wall Street history. It's a cool guy you might want to look into that I forgot. I didn't forget he existed, but there's an interesting investor named Robert Wilson. And Robert Wilson was involved in a trade called Resorts International. I think Kramer was involved in this trade too, if I'm not mistaken. And Resorts International was like the most short squeeze of all time before GameStop. GameStop has taken that title. Fairly definitively, GameStop is the most short squeeze of all time. But Resorts International is up there. And if you like history, because you can't live through everything, right? And you're not old enough. And by the time you get old enough, well, then you're old. So you want to read a little history, and it tends to repeat itself. So Resorts International was this wild short squeeze in the, well, I want to say it might have been the 80s, but I think it might have been the 70s too. And read about it. It's a good story. And he, like most shorts, you know, it was an Atlantic City hotel basically. And like most shorts, it was pretty obvious, you know, a lot of scammy stuff happening at the company, crazy valuation. But man, this thing went up like 20x on him. And he survived and made money anyway, but that's why he's a legend. But yeah, interesting, enigmatic kind of guy. He was, yeah, you can read about his life. I mean, he was a strange fellow. Who else is a bear out here? Bears represent. We'll be bulls in a few years when the bottom's out. Don't worry. And nobody will listen to us either. Like, no, you gotta be bullish. They're gonna say, Shkreli, the sky is falling. It's over. Get into a bunker. And when your most bullish friend turns bearish, that's when we buy, baby. Right now we sell them though. I also want to run our market maker today and see if we can make some improvements and then start to move to a co-located server, get our ping down, maybe move the program to a different programming language, you know, do all this stuff. See if we can get to, how many milliseconds do we need to get to? 0? Investing aggressively in AI and innovation. Okay, that's the CFO. These are some non-GAAP numbers. We'll look at those translations in a second. Data center was a record 3.9, up 69% year over year. Strong ramp of AMD Instinct GPU shipments and growth in 𝗕𝗡𝗄 CPU sales. Okay. Data center was 12.6 for the year. Really up 100% year over year. That's kind of amazing. Then we got Ryzen, which is the consumer GPU. Also still growing pretty nicely after a bad year last year. I don't know if it's a refresh cycle or what happened there, but gaming. Oh, Ryzen's the CPU, of course. Right, or is it both? Are they both Ryzen? I don't even know the AMD GPU. Radeon. Ryzen and Radeon. There we go. Yeah, I never used these things. I haven't used a Radeon in 20 years when it was ATI that AMD acquired to get into GPUs. I don't know if you guys remember ATI. ATI was big on Wall Street. I don't know anything about hardware. Yeah, 𝗕𝗡𝗄 is the data center. Okay, so gaming had a really rough year. Decrease in semi-custom revenue. Oh, okay, so that was PlayStation or something. AMD continues expanding its partnerships to deliver highly performant AI infrastructure at scale. IBM announced plans to deploy the Instinct MI300X. Okay. I heard this new poetry the other day. It was really good. It was called From the River to the Sea. Do you guys know what that is? What does that mean? It sounded very poetic. I'm gonna tell Kanye to use it in his next song. I'm just gonna put lots of bids underneath just in case. Sometimes a good idea if you think the market's gonna like whoosh down and there's like a price that you like, I would buy this stock no matter what at this price. Sometimes you just put it in and see what happens. Maybe make it good to cancel. I mean, the 1 or 2 times in history where it's worked, people are very grateful that they did it. I would buy 1,000 shares of Microsoft at $5, no matter what. $5? Really? Yes, $5. How sick would that be? You're short everything, you go into a coma, wake up from the coma, you're the richest man in the world. My whole order screen is like large bids for further price depreciation. Whether it'll happen or not, I don't know. Sometimes you don't even want it to happen, do you? Do I really want to buy Microsoft at $6? Would there be a Microsoft left? The only time it really worked was that flash crash. I'll never forget that. I was in a meeting with 𝗕𝗍𝗍𝗄𝗏, and my business partner like interrupts the meeting. I was kind of pissed at him for interrupting the meeting. He gave me like a post-it. He was like, mark it down $1,000, down 1,000 or something. He's like, Johnson & Johnson just traded at like $6 or $10 or whatever it was. Procter & Gamble traded at $20. I don't know if they canceled those trades or not. Where's Bitcoin? Oh no, Bitcoin's 80,000. Oh no. I think Rigetti definitely gets a seven handle today. Just be mindful that, in this kind of environment, you will see rallies, you will see recoveries, you will see comebacks. Don't be shocked if the market, comes back 1% or 2% today. Everything's possible. Don't get yourself in a mindset where you're like inflexible, I guess, because markets are very chaotic and nothing is predictable. If you want to get a sense for it, there's a branch of math called dynamical systems. It's like pretty interesting. So between that and like Navier-Stokes and other parts of math, you can sort of see how like very small changes in starting conditions can lead to very large outcome differences. And that's the whole sort of idea of dynamical systems or chaos. And markets are chaotic. I mean, they're not path dependent, right? They're not Markovian as much as we'd like to think they are. They tend to have a randomness that comes from different actors acting in different ways. There was the old quant scenario, quant doomsday, where there's a scenario where Renaissance blows up. There's a scenario where Renaissance doesn't. That's what happened, obviously. But had Simons not levered down, could we have seen a meltdown of some kind? Certainly possible. Could have happened. So just sort of be mindful that, on no given day should you say and make up your mind that, oh yeah, market's gonna crash for sure. And price action tends to infect your brain a bit. All you see is red, you see prices dropping rapidly, and you say to yourself, oh, okay, this looks really ugly. Well, that's probably the time to start buying. At the same time, you have to maintain some perspective in the long run too. So the best thing for me, is always to stick to fundamental analysis. Just say, these are stocks that I'm willing to buy at this price, and these are stocks I'm willing to sell at that price. And whatever happens, happens, Yeah, geometric Brownian motion is probably a better way to model the market than Markov processes, but in any event, let's keep reading. Vultr, I don't even know who that is, and AMD announced a strategic collaboration to power Vultr's cloud infrastructure. Yeah, it's a little like cloud guy, right? 𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓, I know those guys, announced that it will leverage the MI300 and MI300X. And then, of course, there's ROCm, which I've dealt with through PyTorch. Okay, so they're going to do tokenizer-free LLM architecture. Interesting. Fujitsu and AMD announced strategic partnership. AMD announced strategic investments, including investments in Liquid AI. Oh, wow. Liquid AI, Vultr, and 𝗓𝗡𝗓. Isn't 𝗓𝗡𝗓, that's an antibody player, right? AMD released ROCm 6.3. Dell and AMD announced that Ryzen AI Pro. Okay, you've got Ryzen AI Max, Ryzen AI 300, 𝗓𝗏𝗏 supercomputer at Livermore. #1 on the top 500 list. Wow, 𝗓𝗏𝗏. The Hunter supercomputer at Stuttgart, MI300As, APUs. Should not call them APUs. We've got the Ryzen 9000 X3D. Okay, let's look at the guidance. Guidance was 7.1. Was that below consensus? 30% revenue growth, not bad. I mean, revenue growth just keeps going higher and higher. I guess of course, the cyclicality matters quite a bit. Whoa! Genmab announces J&J decision regarding Hexabody. Oh, Genmab will not exercise its license. Just shorted some. It looks like it's down. I guess we already knew this. Don't do what I'm doing. You're paying 64 times free cash flow for a company that's been sort of a secular grower, but look at the 2013 to 2017 period. You had basically flat earnings, and then you had the cyclical big jump here. So I think you just have to be pretty sure that we're going to be in this big semi-super cycle for a while. Otherwise, I don't know how you buy AMD. Given given this could be peak cycle earnings. What do you want to pay on peak cycle earnings? 20 times? Even that's aggressive for peak cycle. Yeah, AMD looks like a short to me. I mean, unless you really feel like they're gonna dominate more than what's priced in. I mean, even on a price to sales basis, it's like very historically expensive at 6 times. It's like CapEx of revenue. It's just CapEx. You can't really fight the macro when you're a semiconductor company. It's pretty tricky. Market manipulation. What's happening, William? Market manipulation police. Get on the ground. You've been caught manipulating markets. How do you plead? Yeah, AMD doesn't really spend much on CapEx. Okay, so they actually had 3.2 billion in earnings at one point for free cash flow. So you could do you guys probably heard of this CAPE, cyclically adjusted PE ratio. There's a couple ways to do this, including almost like a moving average. No, I increased the shorts on quantum today. I want as much exposure to the straight as possible. I mean, Rigetti's going up $3. I mean, why would anyone want to own it? No revenue. You get technical progress update once a year. What's there to be excited about? Yeah, so one way to do it is just sort of smooth out the earnings as if it were not a cyclically sort of bumpy company. Problem is you don't know what the peak is and what isn't. It's the only kind of tricky part. And another way to look at it is the last 7 years, AMD's made $10 billion. It's a little hard to justify these earnings unless if you assume they can grow cash flow. So I guess, the meta here is, will they take share in the GPU market? Will they take share in the PC market's important too, but I'm not sure it's that important given how Intel's done. And obviously there's some expectation that they'll continue to grow and take share from Intel. I think expectations on the GPU side are pretty low. There'll be a lot of different types of accelerators coming through too. I'm trying to think of what I know about AI and how it would apply here. I mean, if Torch works for ROCm, which it kind of does, and they could improve ROCm a bit and Torch with it, it could take some share. And I would have no problem using an AMD if ROCm was stable. And even kind of like a 5-10% market share there would be a pretty big earnings boom. There is an expected gain there to some extent, but not a 10% gain, maybe like a 1 or 2% gain. So if they can get a 5 or 10% gain, that'd be a big deal. I don't know how competitive the chip is though, price per, it's hard to beat NVIDIA's systems. I mean, just the call optionality of that is worth quite a lot. It's funny that you think about $150 billion company as a call option, but I guess you're getting that call option somewhat for free, which I like. Yeah, I don't know. I'm now that I think of it, kind of like it. I mean, they'll continue to abuse Intel, and that'll get them to another, I don't know, 30 billion in revenue. You see what the leverage power there was. I'm not worried about a near-term recession for AMD. That's going to happen to everybody. That shouldn't affect the stock too much. Question is, will they keep taking share from AMD, and then what will they do in the GPU accelerator? I think things are kind of slowing down to the point where I wouldn't be shocked if, as the dust settles, AMD can gain a little share. People really do want an alternative to NVIDIA to some extent. And if it's all the same when you're running Torch, you can kind of work with that. Now, the bigger companies aren't just going to run Torch. They're going to write their own kernels and stuff like that. And for that stuff, AMD is kind of forever cooked. I mean, you have to really go into programming a bit. It's a hard call. I mean, again, the beauty of the market is you don't need to make hard calls. But think about it, a 10% market share in GPUs for the data center doubles their revenue. I don't know that Microsoft wants to get into semiconductors, but it is a funny point, is that if Google is going to spend $75 billion in 1 year on CapEx, I might as well buy AMD. I reserve judgment on AMD. I got to think about it some more. At the right price, it's a great long. They can get that GPU share, or the accelerator share, whatever they call it. That'd be a pretty big deal.